Hello, everyone. Hello. So nice to see you. Can you hear us well?
Yes.
Very good. In the last few days, we have been putting together a slideshow for tomorrow. So we have many slides. We've been seeing you all because we have many slides of the Babaji trip.
Oh,
And so it's been very nice to revisit all of that. It's very cold and rainy here, so we have our warm sweaters and clothes on. So it's probably not cold and rainy there, but we want to thank you for just the beautiful satsang we had. Oh, hello, Sairam, how are you? Just the beautiful satsang we all had together at Babaji's cave on that trip. And we'll be seeing you really not very long, in February sometime. So anyway, we'll come to Chennai and that will be wonderful. But I guess we should just go with our topic. Oh, see. Do you have any questions about our schedule or anything?
well, we've been planning a lot around your schedule in terms of coming on March 14th and 15th, and after the Kriya initiation, which many people are eagerly looking forward to, we're going to go, a large group of us, just like the Babaji Cave group, go to Master's home in Calcutta.
Oh, that's wonderful. We were there, I think you probably know, but we were there earlier and did a Kriya initiation. So it was very, very lovely.
And also, some of us are also going to see if we can go to Bangalore for the Mahasamadhi that you guys were
Wonderful. Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. So we're going to show also the little slideshow that I think Prem Kumar put together of the trip that was posted on YouTube. Was that Prem Kumar who did it?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's we'll show pictures of all of you. This is tomorrow. We have something called World Brotherhood Day, and if you recall, we brought that big mala to Babaji's cave, and so we'll have a special World Brotherhood Day, and we'll have music, and Jyotish and I will talk a bit. We'll show the slides and that we were assembling. We'll show the little YouTube video of our trip, and then we took that mala apart and we put one bead each in a little silk bag, and then when people come up for their blessing, we'll give them one of those beads. So that will be very nice. And when there's the picture of Sai Ram, then we will say that he was voted the best villain in India. So anyway,
he's now a villain in 2 shows.
In 2 shows. Okay.
Well, there's a short video on YouTube which you may have seen of the 2 of you meditating in Babaji's cave, and as part of the video, it shows you taking that mala off the altar, meaning that people could actually see that there it was on the altar at Babaji's cave.
Oh, nice. Is that Agna that just came in?
And Mary's here too.
Mary, we can't see yet.
Why don't you move the chair next to Sairam, and then you can sit there.
Hi, Mary. Mary, thank you for your beautiful letter. That was so sweet. Very sweet.
Thank you.
So, Dharmaraj and Dharmini suggested that we
talk a little bit about the subject of Christ consciousness, since we're coming into the season that Master celebrated so strongly here in the West, especially because, of course, this being a Christian country, Christianity celebrates really two major holy days, the birth of Christ, which is Christmas, and then the death of Christ and his resurrection, which is Easter. And so the first of those two we celebrate on December 25th, and it's a very, I would say, the highlight of many people's year, because it's very similar in many ways to Diwali. People spend several weeks getting presents together. In fact, Master, during the early years at Mount Washington, he would begin shopping for little special gifts for each of the renunciates. He would begin shopping 6 or 8 months ahead of time. When he saw something, he would think, oh, that would make a perfect Christmas present for whoever. And he would buy that as a little memento. And so it was a very holy day for him. He often urged his chief disciple, Rajarsi Janakananda, to come from Kansas to Mount Washington to be there at Christmas time with him. So Master loved that holiday, but he always also had us understand that there was a deeper meaning to it, because naturally there is an outer meaning and then there's an inner meaning. And the outer meaning is it's the birth of Christ, and of course that story is told in the Bible, but for people in the West, if they know any story about Christianity, they know the story of Christ's birth. And it took place as Mary was traveling. She was pregnant, and they had to travel. She and her husband Joseph had to travel because Israel at that time was under Roman law. And so the Roman government dictated that everyone had to go in order to register, in order to be taxed. And so in the very last days of her pregnancy, they had to make quite a long trip she riding on a donkey to go to Bethlehem, which is where he was from originally, his family. And they couldn't find any space in order to stay there. The inns were all full because of all this movement caused by the Roman dictatorial government. And so they couldn't find any place, and then all they could find was a little shed, a little manger, where cows and other animals were kept and fed. And it was there in very, very humble circumstances that Jesus was born. And so in the West, we have not only that story, but then we have the many, many hymns and carols that have been written around that. So everyone sings those and knows the story and so on. So that outer story of Jesus's birth in very humble circumstances is well understood, but it isn't a very deep understanding. Of course, God comes in humble circumstances, but he may also come in elevated circumstances. He's beyond all circumstances. But Master wanted to celebrate that outer Christmas, of course, but he also wanted every year to celebrate the inner Christmas. And so he began the practice of having a long meditation, which I imagine you all will do. So having a long meditation, at first it was on Christmas Eve, which is the day before Christmas, but then he found that too many people were traveling or going to see their relatives or family, and so he moved it one day earlier to December 23rd. And from his time onward, that long meditation has been practiced by all of his disciples. And so the very first time that I was with Swamiji for that was in 1967. And in fact, the day before that long meditation in 1967 is when I received my first Kriya initiation, because he wanted to have a Kriya initiation so that those who were coming for the long meditation could practice Kriya during that. And it was a very sweet combination. So Christmas has a dual meaning for me. It was not only the outer holiday, but the inner holiday of having received Kriya. But then we practiced that long-standing tradition of the 8-hour meditation on the 23rd of December. But Master also talked about what Christ consciousness is, because that's the essence of it. To understand it, it's really quite simple and clear once you have had it explained to you. But until you have had the meaning of Christ consciousness, the meaning of the elevation of consciousness that these great saints have explained, it can be very obscure. But Master explained it this way, that God is beyond creation, and then from his own consciousness, he spews forth the created world. And so it begins with pure consciousness, then with thought, that's the causal world, then with energy, that's the astral world, and then that condensed energy comes down into the physical world. But in the physical world, in every atom is contained the essence of God's consciousness, even though it's quite hidden by the time it gets condensed and pushed farther outward into physical matter. You can't look at physical matter and immediately see, oh yes, of course, it's made up of God's consciousness. It seems to have its own reality. But when a person meditates deeply enough so that they become once again reunited with God, then they have the actual experience of their consciousness in samadhi expanding so that they can feel themselves not only in what we think of as their own body, but in all bodies, in everything, in all creation. And when that consciousness expands and they feel their unity with God in every atom of creation, that's the Christ consciousness, or the Kutusta Chaitanya, or Krishna consciousness. That same state of awareness can be explained in different words, in different terminology, but that's what the state is. It's the understanding that your essence is there at the heart of every atom in creation. And so Master then further went on to explain that in the Christian Bible there is a statement that Jesus said that no one comes unto the Father except by me. And so fundamentalist Christians say, therefore, no one can find God unless you believe in Jesus and unless you accept the doctrines of our church. So they take that as a very outer statement. But what Master said, the true meaning of that is that no one can come unto God the Father beyond creation until they unite their consciousness with the Son of God or the created universe. And so first we have to unite our consciousness with all of creation, and only then can we go beyond creation. And so the Christ consciousness is that understanding, that awareness, that we are part and parcel of everything that is, and that in fact our true self-identity does not stop at the skin of our bodies or our personalities. When we break that false identification, then we become identified with everything. We were just watching a scene from the movie that we are making about Swami's and Master's life called The Answer. And there's a scene in there where Master gets quite wobbly on his feet, and he asks Swamiji, he calls him Walter, "Walter, give me your arm," and he leans on Walter's arm, and he said, "It's hard to remember to keep this one body moving when I feel myself in all bodies." And so a great master feels himself in all bodies. A person of Christ consciousness or Krishna consciousness feels himself in all bodies and not just in the single body that they have to keep moving. As Master also said in his beautiful poem, Samadhi, "I, the cosmic sea, watch the little ego floating in me." So that's kind of the philosophical essence of Christ consciousness.
And I'll share with you a little bit about what we can look at from the life of Jesus, the man, and see the deeper reality of who that great master was. You know, Master tells us that even when Christ was at his birth, we hear that he was visited by the three wise men. And Master tells us that these were Babaji, Hari Mahashaya, and Swami Shri Yukteswar, and that they were great enlightened masters from the East that came to visit him, even in that time. And then there's some speculation, of course, and please accept that this is just speculation, that, well, where was Yoganandaji? Where was Gurudeva at that time? And then when Master came to the West, he called his work the Second Coming of Christ. So you can connect the dots there and see what he might be trying to say. But then in the Bible itself, there are the missing years of Christ. It stops when he's about 13, then it picks up again when he's 30, and then he begins his mission as an adult. And according to many traditions, Christ returned, and Master says this too, that Christ returned the visit of the three wise men, and he came to India, and he studied yoga and in Tibet and in India. And there are recorded historical references of a great Westerner named, they called him Esau, that came from Israel to India and Tibet and studied there. And in that time he completed his unity with God. It was probably already established, but he connected it. And then he came back to the West and to the Holy Land. And he had his mission for those last 3 years of his life. But Jyotish explained it in a very philosophical terms. But I think it's also helpful because Master has a beautiful article, perhaps you've all read it, called Steps to the Christ Consciousness. And in it he talks about different paths to that Christ consciousness, to universal awareness. And one of them is the path of meditation and deep experience of unity with God. But Master also talks about the social path to Christ consciousness, and that's to live in the world in such a way that you are aware of the needs and the realities of everyone around you, in fact, all beings. You know, when Christ was at the very end of his life, when he was in his last great moments, when he was being crucified, Master said the greatest words of the greatest miracle of love were Christ's words from the crucifix, where he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And so that kind of transcendence, no matter what personal cost we ourselves are having to pay, but to look with compassion on all the world and to feel the world's sufferings. I remember reading some years ago about the mother, the woman that was the spiritual helper of Sri Aurobindo. And she was in fact a Western woman, a European woman. And she came to India and met Sri Aurobindo, became his disciple, and became a great saint in her own right. And she said she would go into states where she called them circles of sorrow, where she could just feel the universal suffering of everyone in the world and would pray for them. And so the one way to also understand Christ consciousness, and it's something that in the West, I must share with you, it's a little bit of a jarring experience for us to come back to America because it's very efficient and very practical. But the sweetness and the devotion that we so loved in India, it's not so strong here as it is in India. And we're just getting used to it, but it's fun. But of course we have the blessings of living in Ananda community, which is like a little island in the midst of American consciousness. But nevertheless, around Christmas time, Master said it was sacred because those vibrations of universal compassion and sympathy for others and universal brotherhood and love, he said those rays are very strong in the world at this time, whatever religion we're raised in. I wasn't raised a Christian, so this is always a little bit foreign to me as it is to you. I was raised in the Jewish faith, so I was a little bit outside of the mainstream in America. But nevertheless, one can feel those qualities of universal compassion and sympathy, as I was saying, and it awakens that in people. And for that, we read a beautiful story, true story. I believe it took place in the First World War, that it was were in the great battlefields of Europe, and there was a demarcation line between, I believe it was the French and the Germans who were, killing each other. But on Christmas Eve, there was a truce, and one of them, the battle lines, the troops were very close to each other, and one group began singing some beautiful devotional Christmas songs, and the other group heard it and drew a little bit closer, and they began joining them in these Christmas songs, and little by little they all came together just for that night. They put down their guns and their rifles, and they sat there and they saw each other. The scales fell from their eyes that you are my enemy, you are different from me. But they just saw each other as brothers in God for that one night.
They even exchanged some gifts with each other.
Yeah. So it's this miracle of universal love and compassion that dwells in the heart of everyone. And all of the great saints of every religion embody this in one form or another. We just had the wonderful opportunity about a week ago to see the movie that's, I think it will soon be released in India, called Awake, about, it's a documentary about Yoganandaji's life, and there's so much footage that we've never seen. Master and Sri Teshwar and Gandhi and Anandamoy Ma, and it's just thrilling. But you look in the eyes of all of these great ones and you just see that same quality of universal compassion. And the closer we get to God, the more and more that spirit grows within us. I remember a dear friend of ours who we've probably mentioned to you, who was a direct disciple of Anandamoy Ma. She said, Ma would just wander around the countryside and often into little villages where no one knew her. And she would just come in, and maybe she'd have one or two disciples with her, but the little villagers didn't know who she was. And she'd just sit perhaps on the side of the tank, maybe getting some water, and just resting a little bit. by one, without giving a sermon, without any outward display, people would feel that quality of universal love. And they would, it was like bees to honey. They just all began coming around her and for her darshan. And then when she would, after a little while, when it was time for her to go, they would start weeping and they would say, please don't go, please don't go. They didn't even know who she was, but that quality of universal love is a language which all hearts recognize and understand. And so these are ways to understand and think a bit about this Christ consciousness, which is really, and Christmas, which is a universal holiday if we understand it. And as we saw your beautiful altars, you've been celebrating it in your way. So these are just some thoughts, and we'd like to ask you if you have any questions or things you'd like to ask of us.
Karthik and Satya, can you come in so they can see you? Oh, they can. I don't think.
Hi, Alanga. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Do you have?
Oh, hello.
Nice to
It's
see
so
you
nice
all.
to see you.
Can they see Kartik now?
No, not yet.
Well,
Maybe.
no, that's okay.
So,
Hello.
Hi.
did he take
How are
anything
you,
of your life?
Kartik?
Very good, very
Do you
good.
like asking a question?
How is your son, Kartik?
Oh yes, he's doing very well. He's doing his exams now. He's half-yearly examinations are going on now, so he's not joined today.
Okay, give him our love.
Sure, definitely.
Do you have any particularly special memories of or stories of Christmas time with Swamiji in the later years or any time?
Swamiji loved to celebrate Christmas, and so when he was here in Ananda Village, normally one of the practices of Christmas is that you get a big Christmas tree. And this is usually a pine or a fir tree, and then you decorate it. And Master explained, of course, no one understands, it's just a tradition to have a Christmas tree. Oh, you have one!
We should take that out, but it is not a pine.
Excellent.
I see it on TV.
Yes.
See on TV, that's right.
So Swamiji, so we would always have a big Christmas tree, and then we would have a decorating party. And we would all come together and we would put the lights on and the decorations and the little ornaments and tinsel and so on. And it was always a very nice time. That was usually about 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas. But Master explained that the Christmas tree has a deeper symbolic reason for being, which is the tree represents the spine. And then the lights on that tree represent the lights, especially of the chakras, but the lights that illumine as the spine is brought into an erect and the energy goes up the spine. But of course, nobody understands that. It's just an outer tradition to have a Christmas tree. So Swamiji would have a big Christmas tree party, and we would all come and decorate. And then very, very often, he liked to read stories by P.G. Wodehouse, a British humorist. And he loved those stories. And sometimes he would laugh so hard when he was reading them that he couldn't get through a sentence. It would take him 2 or 3 or 4 tries to read a sentence because he would be laughing so hard at it. And of course his laughter was absolutely infectious. So all of us would be laughing, and it would be just a very, very joyful time. And then, of course, I've mentioned that there would be the long meditation. And then usually on Christmas Eve, or sometimes on Christmas Day itself, we would gather, and Swamiji would have presents for many people, and we would give him presents, and he would give us presents. But he loved that holiday.
And I remember many of the long 8-hour meditations that we would do with Swami. And he, in the early years, it was not easy. Now you get more used to it and develop your kind of duration of meditation. But in the early years, sitting for 8 hours to meditate was not easy, and your back would cramp up or your legs would lock up. But Swami would lead the meditation, and it's usually cold that time of year. Often there's snow on the ground, so colder than even Rishikesh, much colder than Babaji's cave. But he would always, in the temple, he said, we have to keep the temperature down because people will fall asleep otherwise. So he would have all the windows open, no heat on, and it would be freezing in there, and we'd all have all these blankets on. But Swami, he would be sitting up there. It was so beautiful. Sometimes he'd have a little shawl on, but usually not even any wrap. And he would go so deep. He would be so unmoving. And in the early, to be perfectly honest with you, in the early days, it was hard for me to sit, and I would keep opening my eyes and looking at him, seeing what he was doing. He never moved. He never shifted. He just was totally absorbed in God. It would like, okay, I can keep going if he's still there. It was like an anchor, a spiritual anchor. And then he would take a break halfway through, or 2/3 of the way through. People could go to the washroom or have a little tea or something. And I remember once, and somehow instinctively, you knew everyone was in silence. You didn't talk at all. But you knew not to kind of engage people because people were trying to be very inward. But I think I just was going down a hallway, and Swami happened to be coming the other way, and we just kind of were in each other's presence there. And I just looked at his eyes, and they were very, very removed, very remote. But then he kind of looked at me, and he kind of saw who I was. And he just got this very sweet little smile, but still very distant and remote. And they were, I would say, those early meditations with Swami, we probably had maybe 15 Christmas meditations with him. In his later years, he couldn't sit that long because his body was more fragile. And then he would be in Italy often, or in the later years in India. But those early years of meditating with him, I think they were a tremendous blessing. And I want to encourage as many of you who can to come at least to part of the long meditation. I really, for all of us, those long meditations, you feel the benefits of them for many months afterwards. Your meditations are deeper, you're more able to feel God's presence on a regular basis. So I just remember Swami leading all of us, and we were pretty much newcomers to the spiritual path at that time. But he was guiding us to go deep in meditation, and it was a tremendous blessing.
This is a very holy season, First there's Christmas, and then a week later is the New Year's holiday. And Master often wrote articles about making New Year's resolutions and redoing habits. And so he turned that into a very spiritual time of reevaluation, self-analysis, reevaluation, and affirmation and planning of how to do better in the forthcoming year. And then, of course, 5 days later, is Master's birthday. And so, very holy time of year right now. And of course, we're just coming up also on the winter solstice. So, which is solstices and equinoxes are also special times. So, it's a very sacred time of year, that 2 or 3 week period.
But just to also go back to Christmas memories of Swami, Jyotish talked more about the social, and I was talking more about the meditation. But first we would have the meditation, and then it was, where Swami was very withdrawn. He was just trying to be absorbed in the Christ consciousness. And then Christmas Eve, the next day, he was jovial and laughing, and he was always, oh, did you make the eggnog right? And he had a special recipe for eggnog, which is a traditional Christmas drink. It's kind of cream and eggs and nutmeg and different sugar, different seasoning. It's some people like it. I can't say it's one of my favorite things, but anyway, Swami would be directing how they made the eggnog, and so he was really modeling for us also how to live in the world with God's joy. Go deep in God, and then enjoy, share that joy in everything that you do. And it was a wonderful, wonderful way to understand the true meaning of celebrating any holiday. And of course, there would be presents and all of those things, but it was all embraced in the consciousness. Swami showed us how to embrace all the celebrations in that consciousness of Christ consciousness that we've been talking about. To share about that one day where we had to lead the long meditation and the road was frozen.
Well, one time we were supposed to lead the long meditation, and we lived, this was in the very early first 2 or 3 years of the community, 3 or 4, and the meditation retreat is about a 15-minute drive from where most of Ananda village is. And in those days, the houses and especially the roads were much more primitive. They were really just dirt tracks. But at this time, our home, which was a geodesic dome, was at the bottom of quite a steep slope. And normally during most of the year, there was no problem just driving up. But during the winter, once in a while, there would be either a snowfall or there would be a freezing night, and the road would be icy and very slippery. And so this particular time, we needed to get up to the meditation retreat relatively early in order to lead the long meditation. And so we came out, and that night had been freezing, and so the path, the driveway was very slippery. And so we tried, I don't know, about 10 times to get up, and then the slope, and we'd get part way up and then kind of slither back, and we'd put branches down and did everything we possibly could. Finally,
We were pouring boiling water on the tires to get the ice off of them.
Everything we could think of. Finally, we got a lot of momentum going, and we were coming up the hill, and we were still going fast, and we were going to make it. We knew we were going to make it, and then there was a dog just standing right in the middle. It's like, what are you doing here? And of course we had to stop, and then we slid back down the hill, and then we get up again. So we had to call a friend who had a truck with 4-wheel drive, and he pulled us up the hill. But I made a kind of a Sunday service out of it about how you need to make the spiritual effort, and if you try hard enough, then you can achieve your goal. But even when you try hard, there's the tamasic element that to stop you. And so when that tamasic element comes, all you can do is call on the help of your friends, the satsang, and they will pull you up the rest of the way.
What did you all do for Christmas, the Christmas after the fire? Do you remember?
Oh, yes. We do remember. That was an interesting time. I'll just share, the fire was in June of 1976. So, we lost everything we had, and we just had to live. Our house burnt down, and we found a very small little travel trailer, and that's where we were living. We had a young child at the time. Our son was just, by Christmas time, was about 6 months old. And but it was interesting because we had tried to save a little money to buy Christmas presents. And so one day we were going to go into shopping and with our money and buy presents for everyone. And this was in our checkbook, but then when I looked more carefully, I had added it up wrong, and we only had $10 to our name. And so we said, well, what can we buy for $10 to give for presents for all of our friends? And so we said, well, let's just buy ingredients for cookies. And so we got chocolate chips and, everything, and we baked, a couple of trays of cookies, and we put them in little plastic bags, and then there was a big gathering. And it was actually one of the sweetest Christmases because everyone was very hard pressed. And the gifts that we gave were just things that we knew were all that we had to give. And so maybe you got, 2 little cookies in a bag, or maybe you got something a little picture that someone made for you, a picture of Master that someone cut out of a magazine and glued it on cardboard. And so in a way it was a very, very precious time because we didn't have the material luxury to give people nice gifts, but what we gave was from the heart. And it was a very, very, in a way it was one of the more precious Christmases because of that.
Often when God takes away material things from us, He compensates even more sweetly by increasing the love and friendship, the connection of that web. And everything money can buy is not very much, but everything money can't buy is a great deal. I mean, if you have to have the trade-off, it's better to have everything money can't buy.
But it's very beautiful because we got a letter after the fire that someone had written, someone we didn't know who lived at a distance. But they said, speaking of everything money can't buy, she said, I'm so sorry you all had to have this loss, but what a blessing that your child was born at a time when so many prayers were being sent to Ananda. And again, there's a beautiful line from the Bhagavad Gita, what's day to the worldly man is night to the yogi, what's night to the yogi is day to the worldly man. And so, you really, I think in a way, I felt that presence of Christ consciousness more strongly than other Christmases during that year, because we were just living by, what we had, we knew was from the grace of God, and it was very, very special. So are you going to have a special celebration for Master's birthday?
We're going to have a retreat. Do you want to say?
So we're going to have, just to tell you what we're doing for Christmas, does someone want to get one of the ornaments? We'll show you one thing we did on our Christmas tree.
Hi, Darmini.
Hello.
She's not able to hear you.
No, you don't. No, go get yours. Anyway. So we made these and put them on the tree. Everybody put their own picture on there, and so everybody who came to our Christmas decorating party, plus more, got little ornaments to hang on the tree, which is nice.
Oh, how
that's
sweet.
Some of the
very
pictures
sweet.
are
Very nice.
and someone brought your pictures today, so we're going to hang you on our tree also.
Oh, then you have to take a picture of the tree and show us.
Yeah, we will. So anyway, we had a really fun party and potluck. And then we're also having a class on Wednesday nights for Christ the Avatar Yogi.
Oh.
And so on, Christ teachings. Then also we'll have the all-day meditation. And then on Christmas Day, we're going to have an oratorio music retreat in potluck.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
we'll do the first half of the oratorio in a sing-along. And
Yeah.
people have been starting, also choir has been working on the Christmas songs that Swamiji wrote, and they're learning the parts for the Christ Child's Asleep. And they're not quite ready to perform it, but maybe we can record it and send it to you when they get
That would be
that.
wonderful.
That'd be great.
Then New Year's Eve, we're going to have a nice ceremony, fire ceremony and all that Ananda we do. And then for Master's birthday, we're going to have a retreat also. So
Oh, wonderful.
we'll have, the day before his birthday, we'll have a retreat. So we've
Uh,
got a lot
very
planned for
nice.
this. And everyone's really looking forward to you both coming. Jayaji and Dhyanaji come at the end of January for a few days. So they're going to put on a big event also.
Oh, very nice,
Wonderful.
very nice.
On Master's birthday here, we usually have a meditation in the morning, and then in the evening, we do a special ceremony, and people renew their discipleship vows or take different levels of vows, so we'll do that. But it's just such a wonderful time of year, and as Swami said, you can just feel it's easier to be inspired during this time of year. That universal consciousness is very present.
Yeah. And in India here, it's nice because it really begins with Diwali. So
Yeah.
Yes.
between Diwali to Master's birthday, we've got that whole season of sacredness, which is really nice.
Music festivals.
That's good.
Okay.
And music festivals in Chennai happen during December and also January.
Until it
Yeah.
goes on for 30 days.
Yeah, so December to January, they have a lot of sacred music festivals here also.
Wonderful.
So
Oh,
Chennai is a
beautiful.
very musical city. Anyone have any questions? Any questions about life?
You sure?
No?
You were inhaling like you had a question.
Say like when we look at you, like we don't feel like asking questions. You're so full of love and joy.
Wait. Just say it again loudly so they can hear.
No, like when we don't feel like asking questions because when we look at you, we are so filled with love and joy and happiness. No, that's the truth, really.
We feel the same way. We feel the same way. We feel like it's like seeing our family.
Yeah.
It's hard to give a discourse when you just.
Those memories are still on the Babaji caves, spending time with you and all those things. So it was wonderful.
I was watching a video where we were singing in the train, Ji. It was nice in the YouTube, so I was watching it yesterday. It was very joyful.
Very joyful.
Yeah, very joyful.
And Rajesh is going to go to Pune for the during his Christmas holiday. So it's how long? 18 days. He's going to be in Pune. And there was Indu and Mahendra, a couple who also joined us for the trip. And Mahendra got a short-term job assignment that puts him in Pune, right near the city center, for about 15 days.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Indu's comment was now that even his office is sending him on spiritual retreat.
Part of the slideshow that we're doing tomorrow to show at the World Brotherhood Day we're having maps of India to show all the different places. And when you go on Google Map and type in Babaji's cave, it's on Google Map.
Oh.
So we have we're showing, our whole trip, Rishikesh. We'll send you, Dharmarajan, we'll send you the slideshow that we're showing.
Wonderful.
Because then part of it's Babaji's cave, but part of it's
We'd love to
different
see.
parts of our trip. So that might be fun for everyone.
Anyone else have a? Oh, go
I
ahead.
was to ask
Sophia.
in Master's words, in Swamiji's words, how Master used to celebrate Christmas.
I couldn't quite hear. Could you repeat, Dharmarajan?
She was saying in Master's words or Swamiji's words how Master used to celebrate Christmas. I mean, beyond the meditation and the...
Whatever it is, the
I
meditation
think,
and the party.
they said it all in the beginning
Oh,
before you So,
He loved to exchange gifts with everyone and have a party, and then he always had a big banquet on Christmas. And so all of his friends, he loved to be with all of his friends.
And I think you probably remember from the New Path, Master would give presents to each of the different disciples and guests. And because when Swami first met him on that first day, he said, when Swami was trying to show that he might be useful to Master's work, he said, I could help you with your writing because I found some split infinitives. And so Master gave him one of these pens that has different colored inks, and he said, for your split infinitive. So it was personalized and meaningful and that sort of thing. And then do you remember, it must be an autobiography of a yogi, where he meets Mr. Dickerson, and he gives him that silver cup, and Mr. Dickerson, when he was a young man, he almost drowned, and then he saw this angel, and he said, and that handed him a silver cup, and he said later, and the angel said to him, I'm getting the story wrong, but essentially he saw a silver cup, and he knew that he would meet someone in the future that would give him a silver cup, and then he was saved from drowning. And then 30 years later or so, Master gave him that silver cup. So it was, every gift that he gave was with deep thoughtfulness. And here's something that's fun to share, because we're talking about giving gifts. Swami loved to give gifts. He loved to buy presents for people because he had such an appreciation for things, and he would want to buy them, then he didn't want them for himself, so he would give them away. But he gave this criteria for buying gifts. He said, when you're trying to select a gift for another person, he said, ask yourself 2 questions. 1, would I like to give that gift to the person? And 2, would that person enjoy receiving it? So it has to be mutual. So sometimes you can say, I really want to give that gift to somebody, but in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, I'm not sure they really want that gift. So think about if you would enjoy giving it and if the person would really enjoy receiving it. And I find that very, very helpful when I'm trying to select things for people. So again, it shows Swami's incredible application of higher spiritual consciousness in daily life. There's no area of life that you can't bring spiritual teachings to bear on in that way.
Well, maybe we should let you get on with the rest of your morning's activities. It's been very, very sweet sharing with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both so much.
God bless you all. And we'll see you in a few months, and probably before that, actually, through Skype. And thank you for your beautiful spirit and devotion. And we pray that God, Christ, and Guru bless each one of you in this holy season.
And remember, we are already united in Christ consciousness. We just have to realize it. God bless you all.